Hey guys, Mrs. Haney back with another lesson, this time on circumference of a circle. So we learned this yesterday, so it's, not too terribly new. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So remember, there's two formulas for circumference of a circle, and I already wrote them. So you have either c equals 2 pi r, or you have c equals pi d. Now remember, R stands for radius and D stands for diameter. And then remember, since there are no operators between those numbers, symbols, and letters, remember that means to multiply. And then also remember, the reason why there's a 2 in the first equation is because it takes 2 radius to make 1 diameter. So what is the process for determining to determine a circumference of a circle? Well, obviously, like we did yesterday, we're going to identify whether we have the radius or the diameter. And then we're going to write the correct formula. We're going to substitute the values into the formula, and then we're going to solve for circumference. So these are just also some important things to know. So circumference is represented by the letter C. Pi is going to be 3.14. Unless we have a fraction, then we will use 22 over 7. D stands for diameter, and then R stands for radius. So over here, to find the diameter, you just multiply your radius by 2. And then if you need the radius, you're going to do your diameter, and you're going to divide by 2. All right? Let's just practice finding a couple circumferences, and then we will move on. So this first one, I noticed that I have a measurement of 10 inches. And I'm going to evaluate the situation. The line goes all the way across the circle. So that tells me right there that this is the diameter. So I'm going to write diameter because that's what we did yesterday. So we're going to continue doing that. And then I'm going to write my formula that is associated with circumference and diameter. So I'm going to put C equals pi d. And now I'm going to substitute in what I know. So I'm still solving for circumference here. I know that pi is approximately 3.14, and then I know that the diameter is 10. So what that tells me right here is that I'm just going to multiply. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 10, and I end up getting a circumference of 31 4/10. And remember, it's inches. It's not squared because it's not area. Remember, area is the space inside the circle. Circumference is essentially perimeter of a circle. So that's why it is just singular units. All right, let's take a look at another one. Let's just scoot over to this next one. So we have a measurement of 3 yards. And I noticed that this line is going from the center of the circle to the edge, which tells me that this is the radius. So I'm going to write radius. You could put an R if you want to, because these are your notes. So, do what you want. So we're going to find the circumference of the circle. So we're going to write the formula that uses radius. So we're going to put C equals 2 pi r. And then we're going to start substituting in. So we know that the circumference equals 2 times 3.14. And the radius in this case is 3. Now, if you guys remember yesterday, I said that I like to multiply the radius by 2 first, because you have to multiply all of these numbers, so you might as well just do the easy numbers first. So now the equation is circumference equals 3 14/100 times 6. So you would just multiply those two numbers, and remember, you're going to move your decimal 2 times in this case. So we have the circumference equals 18 84/100 yards. Again, it is circumference. It is not area. So circumference is perimeter of a circle. So that's why it is singular units. Okay, let's take a look at this word problem. So we're going to skip the next two and go straight to the word problem. So it says a tree is sold based on the circumference of its trunk. If a tree trunk has a radius of 4 inches, then what is the circumference of the tree trunk? I'm just gonna, I guess we can use this information that's given to us. If we look at this box over here, I notice that it says the radius is 4 inches and the diameter, obviously you're just going to do 4 times 2, which gives you 8. So let's go ahead and just use the formula for diameter. You could do that if you want to. So we have C equals pi times diameter, and then we know that pi equals approximately 3 1400ths. So I'm going to write C equals, in parentheses, 3.14, and then I'm going to multiply by 8. Why am I using 8? Well, if we look over here, to get the diameter, you have to multiply your radius by 2. The radius is already 4. 4 times 2 gives us 8. So we're going to multiply 3.14 times 8. We're going to move our decimal 2 times. So we end up with a circumference of 25 and 1200ths. And go back to our units, inches. Remember, it is not squared. It is perimeter of the circle, so therefore it is singular units. Okay, flip your paper over. Let's take a look. So it tells us step 1, write the formula. Step 2, substitute the values. Step 3, solve for C. So let's do 1 and 2 together. All right, so if I look at 1, I notice that I have a measurement of 11. And this 11 goes from the center to the edge of the circle, so that tells me that this is radius. So I'm going to use my radius formula, which, you know what, let's go ahead and practice doing this real quick. So I'm going to write R equals and D equals. So the radius is 11. So to get the diameter, remember it takes 2 radius to get 1 diameter. So we could multiply by 2 and we would get 22. So we could just use that number. And since we know the diameter already, we could use the circumference formula that uses diameter. So let's write that. So we have C equals pi D. So I'm going to substitute in what I know. I know that I'm still solving for circumference. I know that pi is approximately 3 1400ths. And I know that the diameter is going to be 22. So, oops, let me close those parentheses. So remember, you're going to multiply. You put the bigger, the number with the more digits on top. So what I mean by that is, with this workspace, you would put 3.14 times 22. Remember, you line up by the digits, not by the decimals when you do this. So if you multiply, you end up getting a circumference of 69 800ths. Now, they didn't give us like a unit of measurement, so we're just going to label this as the word units. If anything, like if the units of measurement is unknown, you always just put units. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So we have a measurement of 26. I noticed that the line goes from one edge through the center and to the other edge. So that tells me right there that that is the diameter. So I'm going to write diameter. And then, like I said, we're just going to practice doing this. So we're going to identify the radius and the diameter. Well, we know the diameter is 26. Now, I know that radius is half a diameter. So if I divide 26 by 2, I get 13. But since I have diameter, I'm just going to use the formula that involves diameter. So I'm going to put C equals pi D. So I know that pi is approximately 3.14, so I'm going to put C equals, parentheses, 3.14, and then the diameter is 26. So again, I'm going to multiply like normal, and I am going to find the circumference of this circle. So, sorry guys. Remember, the one with the most digits goes on top. So if I multiply those two numbers together, I get 81.64. And again, they didn't give us any units of measurement, so we're just going to write units. All right, we're going to do one more problem, and it's that word problem at the very bottom. So let's take a look at it. It says a circular railroad crossing sign has a diameter of 30 inches. Then it says which measurement is closest to the circumference of the sign in inches. Show your work. Well, obviously we're going to show our work. So let's go ahead and break this down. So this railroad sign is circular and it has a diameter. So diameter means that it goes from one edge to the other. So I'm going to highlight this in blue right here and through the center. So that's our diameter, which is 30. Now we're just going to label this diameter, obviously. So we know we need to use our diameter formula. And then we're just going to practice finding the radius and the diameter. It's just good practice. So we know the diameter is 30 inches. To find the radius, you have to divide your diameter by 2. So 30 divided by 2 gives us 15. Now we don't need to use our radius, so we're going to use the formula that involves diameter. So I'm going to write C equals pi d, and remember that means to multiply. So we know pi is approximately 3.14, so I'm going to write 3.14 in parentheses. And we know the diameter is 30. So we're going to multiply like normal. Remember, the one with more digits goes on top, so you would put 3.14 on top, and then you would multiply by 30. Remember, when you are multiplying numbers, especially if one has decimals and the other doesn't, you line it up by the digits. Okay, so when you multiply those two, you end up getting 94.2. So it says, which one is the closest? Well, it is exactly answer A. All right, good job solving problems involving circumference.